Hey, Rick and Kathy Kelly. Oh, sorry about the delay on getting some of this homework done on these colleges, Rick, that you texted me, but I wanted to get this over to you. Now, if you recall, the strategies that I've taught and, for, gosh, almost 10 years now, and the privilege of speaking literally all over the city here in the charter school system here in Denver, and now with my College Money Academy program to where I sell and now coach privately. Basically, the top high end of this, of course, at a very high level bird's eye view, is that college is a business. And I know you know that. They have customers, it's a student, and they charge a price. Now, unlike normal businesses, the government is there to provide the money for their product, which is education. Now, if the government was there to provide the money for, our cell phones and just kind of give it to us, our cost for cell phones would go up. So the cost for college is very inflated due to the government's involvement and penetration into that arena. That really started before, but it was really solidified in 1992. But anyway, so with the prevalence of money available, and then the financial aid forms that are used to acquire that money, those financial aid forms, of course, are created by the government, and it's ridiculous. So it determines what's called an EFC, an expected family contribution. So you complete the FAFSA forms. And you funnel in your financial information, and then it generates what's called an EFC, an expected family contribution. That number is always high. I have never had a family say, that's it, that's all they expect us to pay. When you funnel in your information, you're going to be like, are you kidding me? They think we could afford $70,000 per year. That number is ridiculous. I've had clients who their EFC was 461,000. Right? No school costs that, but for the system to tell this family that that's what they could afford is just absurd. And then, of course, that's created by the government. And then what does the government do? The government says, hey, not a problem, mom and dad. We're here to help you, and we'll loan you the money, and now enter in $1.5 trillion of student and parent loan money in just the past like 12, 13 years. So it's a major problem. Some of the student loans can be advantageous for a very short period of time, but I know you guys aren't looking at loans. However, I wanted to go through this with you. So first of all, some of these, and I just don't know. I don't know your overall financial position, and that's totally fine. But some of these have a pretty high cost of attendance. Like Embry-Riddle is, about 54 grand, which I'm sure you know. So here's how you would if you haven't already, the FAFSA opens up October 1. You're going to want to do the FAFSAs for sure. It's the process to go through to qualify for a variety of even merit aid. But here's, if you just want an idea, here's kind of the general nutshell of how it works. You're going to take 25% of your most recent AGI, your adjusted gross income. So let's just pretend it's 100. Then you'd put 25 grand here, right? If Gus works, and if he makes, I don't remember the exact number, but call it's at roughly 6 grand. If he makes over 6 grand, you're going to take 50% of that overage and add that as well. So if he made 10 grand, then there's a $4,000 surplus. 2,000 of that would go towards the EFC. But most students aren't in that range, so typically we can kind of wipe this calculation out. So if you take your AGI and 25% of that, and then you take 6% approximately of your assets. Now, all of these schools are what's referred to as a FAFSA school, and FAFSA does not take into account your primary residential equity, right? But they will take into account your investment. So primary resident equity you do not include. You also do not include the balances of your 401k or IRA, including your Roth IRA, 403b, whatever balances. The balances do not count. However, you do need to add back in your contributions. Add back in your contributions. So meaning, well, of course, you know what that means, but if you are, let's say, contributing to your 401k 15 grand a year, you need to add that 15 grand back to your AGI because you technically could be going towards college according to the federal calculations. All right. So any contributions to the pre-tax account, add that back into your AGI. 25% of that, and then 6% of your assets, 529s, 6% of that balance, and take that number. What does that look like, right? So if you had 100,000 in income, let's say, and that was even adding back your 401k contribution, so you'd have about 25 grand here, and let's say you had 100,000 of liquid assets, of capital, so that'd be about 6 grand. So your EFC in that hypothetical example would be about $26,000 per year. So a family that's making 100 grand and has only 100,000 available would be expected to pay about $26,000 per year. It's crazy. Every family always sees this number and goes, "Holy shit!" So, anyway, it's just a benchmark, and I want to get into why that benchmark is something to know in your case. So if you go to College Data, this website is a third-party site. They've got a lot of banners and stuff. That's pretty much how they get their money, is by banner advertisements. But there's a lot of good information on this site, and this is the tool that I use. If you do a search, it'll pull up. I just typed in Auburn. It pulled these two. You hover over, and I always go to admission first, and here's why. I want to understand a baseline of the average student, right? They're going to tell me what is average for them. So then I know if we're a below average kid, then I'm going to, hopefully try to get kind of maybe an average offer, or I might just be okay with a slightly below average offer. But if our kid's above average, there's no way we should expect a below or an average offer. And see, that's what they typically do, right? Because it's a business. But if we know that they lowballed us, then that gives us some power. That gives us some flexibility to negotiate. So I always like to look, to see this first component. I want to know that the essay is taken seriously, because every kid has a story. And I know, man, Gus, great kid. He could write a really good story, right? And the essay to Auburn is very important. Believe it or not, one of the schools, Middle Tennessee State, said not considered. So Middle Tennessee they just don't even consider it. It doesn't matter. But Auburn, it's very important, which is great because that allows us to isolate ourselves from other kids and even appear not just an average student based upon our story. And then I want to see what is a baseline for an average GPA. This is quite high. They're showing the average incoming freshman, looks like in 2016. They didn't date it. So sometime here very recently. Normally these are within 2 enrollment cycles. Is a 3.86. Their average SAT score looks like 614, 611. So just over 1,200. All right. So that's just the average academically with the ability to tell a story. I like that. And then I go to the Money Matters tab. Now, what's going to be on here, of course, is our listed cost of attendance. Now, the cost of attendance, as you guys probably already know this, it is the overall estimated cost, which even includes travel. All right, and books, and some, courses or some courses of study are going to have more expensive books than others, but it includes everything. So the cost of attendance is an estimate on everything. So Auburn is saying for out-of-state kids, it's going to cost you about 50 grand to go here. Now, federal methodology, again, all of these schools you selected are federal methodology, and that's good. They won't take into account the equity of your home, which is fine. I don't know if you have it, but a lot of people do, and federal methodology doesn't care about the equity in your house, so that's good. So the 2016, 2017, this is their recent data. Average award for this is need. So the average need was award was just under 12 grand. The average merit, which is not need, was just about 7,500. Now, one of these schools, and I'll get to it here in a second, Embry-Riddle, again, has about a $54,000 EFC. So, again, not knowing your information, if going through those calculations, if you fall below 50-some grand with an EFC, then you can qualify for need-based aid, which is good. But the merit is about $7,500. Okay, so I did this for every one of these schools, and I just put a little spreadsheet together. All right, so let me just expand that. So here's Auburn's. We just went through it. 49.9 of a cost of attendance, it was 3.86. 27 on the ACT, that was a little bit below. I didn't scroll down. Very important is the SA, average need award, average merit award. If there is a financial need, then the potential combo cost is about 30,009. If there is not any financial need, then the potential cost based upon the average merit, 42.5. Purdue, just went through the same process. Ohio State did not include an average GPA, but average ACT 29. Important essay 15 grand, 7 grand. Combo cost 39. Embry-Riddle does consider the essay. Middle Tennessee does not. Now on this system I could not find anything about Middle Georgia, but I did Google them and I found their cost of attendance, at least on my notes, I put it down as 14.9, which is which is pretty low, which is great. But so I really couldn't find much data on them, at least not within this website. So again, when working with families and looking at these numbers, when they funnel in their financial information, is their EFC higher than that? If so, if there's nothing that can kind of be moved around, sometimes we've done some manipulation to move things around, to get some assets off the radar screen, if you will. Some families being self-employed have adjusted some tax returns, whatever, right? But in your guys' case, if you're higher than that on all of them, then the financial need is not going to happen. But this is a barometer for the merit, right? So Embry-Riddle is the most aggressive on merit. However, they are the most expensive. But they are very aggressive on merit, and they consider an essay, which is great. So not knowing Gus, not knowing exactly where he's falling in the story he's going to write, but if he is average for them and they offer, say, 5 grand, and that based upon his story and he's really close to this stuff, that he's an average student for them, and they only offer 5 grand, well, they lowballed you, right? So that's where the appeal letters will come in, which I'll include for you, and they're friggin' good, dude. They work. So I'd appeal it because you might be able to get back to this mark. And hey, 13.5. If they give you 5 grand and then you get 13.5 or as an appeal, fantastic. Now, appeals don't always work. So Madison applied to 8, got accepted to 7, and we appealed 3. So looking through this whole thing with her, the 3 schools for her that were the most aggressive, where she fit the best academically and everything else, we appealed. One of them didn't even reply to the appeal. One only kicked back 5 grand, and then the third one kicked back over 17. So having multiple options is important. For one, all of these schools can see where you submitted test scores, so they know what their competition is. They can't see that you applied, but they can see you submitted a test score. So that's good. We want them to know there's competition. Don't just apply here only. They will know that. And when it comes time for negotiating, they know you have really no leg to stand on. So we don't want that. We want competition. Now, I would strongly recommend you do at least 6. Don't do less than that, because you need the competition. You need to be able to appeal and have options within that. But do not do more than 10. If you do more than 10, and this came straight from the University of Denver, a $60-some thousand private school, when I worked hand in hand directly with the 2 individuals, their head of endowment, which was awesome, and their head of enrollment. I got to work closely with them on a presentation together. It was really cool. But the head of enrollment told me whenever they see a kid who applied to more than 10 schools, like they're out here, then it's obvious that the kid just didn't even really know, couldn't even narrow it down on what they wanted to do or find their interest, and that they're only looking for the best deal. And it's almost an automatic decline for them. They just don't like it. So a kid should be able to get to 10 schools, right? To condense it to 10. and certainly 6. But so if you guys want to add, you don't have to have 10, but it's just recommended from a business standpoint, man. Go for a couple more, because if you're going to be playing the game, you want to have options. You want to be maximizing that appeal. You want to be pursuing everything you can do so we can get this column as low as possible. Right on? I love this stuff, man. I've done it for a long time, and I have saved an ass ton of money for people. Like 7 figures worth. It's really friggin' cool. But anyway, you're going to get an email, going to have the appeal letters. I'll have this little spreadsheet, and that's it, man. And we'll talk soon. Let's keep me involved, dude. I'd love to be in the loop. All right. Love you guys.